Hello Shiv, Madhavan sir, KK sir, Babil. Congratulations on the railway win. I have to say, I saw all the 4 episodes, binged watched them and thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was both important and very emotionally riveting. Shiv, I wanted to start with you.
Yeah.
What I especially was noticing with the screenplay was a lot of technical terms dispersed throughout the dialogues, especially of the functioning of carbide, how the actual incident happened.
Yeah.
I wanted to know whether you were trying to strike a balance between it not being so technical where it alienates the viewers and not simplify it where it's just palatable for anyone.
Yeah, so thanks for watching the show and I'm glad you liked it. And the endeavor with Railwayman was to make it believable, right? And while telling a story that hopefully thrills and is dramatic and moves an audience, we also wanted it to feel real, like take you back to that era, but not alienate you or distract you from what's happening. Sometimes when things get too technical, you end up moving away, but sometimes technical terms, etc. also add to the authenticity. Whether it's the story of the factory or it's the story of our railwaymen and the railway stations and the various terms you use, the idea was to keep those things in for to make it feel authentic.
Yeah. No, it definitely came across. Madhavan sir, I wanted to ask you, was that also a balance that you wanted to strike, say, with Rocketry also?
I'm strongly of the opinion that the filmmakers actually put themselves on a pedestal thinking the audience won't understand. But it's very far from it here. True. As a country, we're doing so well in almost every field in the world, from fintech to science to medicals to rocket science. So the common man is very, very familiar with it. He knows about Chandrayaan, he knows what is the orbit and what is geostationary orbit, all that he knows. It's just that our filmmakers are not educated. I mean, we keep thinking, maybe if you keep it like this. So when you're doing Union Carbide, you're saying there's a gas leak, that's the characteristics of the gas. The youngsters get it.
They get it.
We have to match up to their caliber of understanding, not the other way around. If you look at Oppenheimer, or if you look at Inception, or if you look at any of the science fiction films that Steven Spielberg and all have done, they have not shied away from technicality. So who are we to say our audience is going to sunna?
Yeah, but what I liked about it especially was that it was mostly conversational. Exactly. And that's when the education was getting imparted, rather than long speeches or dialogues of just describing every technical
But that was
detail.
intentional. That was intentional. So everything comes to you, and I feel like like Maddie sir rightfully said, when it does come to you like that, you do understand it. In fact, I remember when we were shooting, KK sir was like, we had someone who was consulting us with all the railway stuff. KK sir was like, I want to spend more time with him to get the nitty-gritties of the character, because every human being has every role, every like a station master would have a daily duty, and he's like, I need to make that a part of my being, a part of the character to for people to relate to it. So in fact, we were lucky enough to have talent who wanted to emphasize on things like this even more.
No, the performances stood out with this series, I must say. And KK sir, I wanted to ask you, your debut as a leading man in 1999 was with Bhopal Express,
yes,
right?
It was.
So that was such a focal point. The tragedy itself was such a focal point of that story. What compelled you again years later? What was the motivating factor with this series for you?
Was the fact that it was about the men who work for the railways and their heroism and the courage that they displayed on that particular night. So for me, that was the new take on this. Gas tragedy I was aware of because I did that film. But this angle about a whole organization for one whole night, hell-bent upon saving people and going beyond what they would normally do, leaving everything else and just human compassion coming to fore. That is something new, and that is what attracted me to this.
It was insane for me while I was watching the series, just how technical the railway and the daily functioning of it was, and I think the audience will be educated on the same with this as well.
Greatest organization in India.
It was so technical and so well, it's such a every moving part has to be perfect for a smooth functioning. It was so well done.
And that is so well researched by the team. See,
oh yes,
entertainment is also involvement. If you're involved with what is happening, it doesn't have to be laughter and dance all the time. And so when, sorry I'm interrupting you, but that the nitty-gritty of the Indian Railways is so spectacular, with things we take so easily for granted, that itself is so entertaining, right? Involvement.
I loved it on how, with a visual representation, you were just showcasing the moving parts on how they're coming closer and closer. It was beautifully done.
Even the engine itself, everything was so accurately done.
Yeah, we made everything.
They made everything.
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. But Babil, I fell in love with the sort of mentor-pupil relationship that you shared with KK sir in the series. Was this sort of an acting school, the perfect acting school, sharing so many scenes with him? How was it like?
Yeah, of course. I think life in itself is an acting school. But of course, I think the mentor-pupil chemistry that you see in the film, it cannot be there if it's not organically there on set. And I was so lucky that I anyways felt that towards him on set. So I think that reflects. I don't think that can be mechanically created. I think that has to be felt, and I was very lucky in that scenario because I felt just like that towards KK sir as Babil, not as Imadrias,
No, it immediately communicated the moment you put him to the initial test. It came out beautifully also on how it develops over the course of 4 episodes. Shiv, again, as you mentioned, I really wanted to comment on how technically strong the film was. While it was emotionally riveting and I was involved with every character, I thought that especially the special effects of the train incoming and Madhavan sir sitting with the pilot, it almost seemed like it was an actual train moving.
It was.
It was.
So it was perfect then. When you're looking at the train station, was that entirely built?
Yes.
Oh.
That is her favorite.
Took it away.
favorite topic. But so when this started off, we were talking about this. I had this crazy dream, railwayman, and like it sounds so stupid, right? Going and telling, I remember telling Aditya Chopra and at YRF, I was telling him that I have this, like we need to make railwayman, and we need to, the only way to do it is let's build a railway station, and we need to have trains moving on the railway station. It just sounds so silly, but they turned around and they were like, yeah, cool, that's the way it needs to be done. So we got a ground in Mumbai, flattened it all out, built a runway, built a train station, put a train station out, built real trains that could move on that station with buttons in those trains that work with exactly the dimensions of the train, so that all the talent that enters there feels what goes on in that. Like when you walk onto the railway station, you need to feel like every small detail of the paint, of the color, of how it feels, what stalls they have, like every station in India has an AH wheeler. Our station had that. In fact, like I remember one of my assistants going to the set, stopping at the set, and he got off a rickshaw, and the rickshaw said, "Yaar, aajkal ye kahin pe bhi station bana dete hain." So it was like, that's like honestly the biggest compliment, because it just felt so real.
What I also found really fascinating beyond the technicality of the series, KK sir, I wanted to ask you, because I've seen interviews where you've spoken about the segregation between the actor and activism, and what I notice, at least with actors and the movies that they associate themselves with, there is more judgment dependent on the politics that film speaks about. You're very clear about stories that compel you from a screenplay perspective, irrespective, right?
Yeah. First 3 letters are the same in acting and activism, but they are completely different. So it's something that you should avoid as an actor, because as an actor, it's your job to perform whatever that enchants you as an actor. A filmmaker can have it, a scriptwriter can have it, but actor should not, because the actor is basically working on a white sheet of paper, and he wants that white sheet of paper for the audience first, so that he can draw his character. The moment that sheet of paper is colored, because of some reason of your activism, then you would not succeed in making a character, because people will see you with that bias. So it's essential for an actor to practice not to do anything of that sort. So for me, I approach everything that I do. I've played killers, for example. What does that mean? Am I a killer? No. So it's like that. So I don't believe in killing people. So yet I still play those kind of parts. So yeah, so that's how an actor, and to make it really believable and things like that, you should need to have a clean slate, so that people can see what artistry you have done. Otherwise, they'll be colored, and that will be the end of your acting process or acting career.
I agree 100%, sir. And you know, Babil, these are just like the formative years of your career right now. I have a lot of respect for the kind of choices that you're making right now. You know, I was seeing like old interviews of Irfan sir, and he was talking about being terribly bored when the mundane was happening in the early days of TV.
But even those old interviews, he was 40 years old.
So imagine, his break also came in way later, right?
Yeah.
He spoke about just not getting in the rut of mediocrity where it's almost routine when he's coming to set. Is your pursuit also in these initial days also to do a variety of characters rather than the mundane?
There are many actors you research as a young actor yourself, and I think when you have somebody walking around in your own house, that is an actor you don't research, you know, like you research much later on. But yeah, I am not thinking so much, you know, I'm not intellectualizing the process so much, and that is where I'm at. I'm really just trying my best to sustain my humanity and my individuality and be myself honestly. That's my pursuit right now, and whatever comes, I give it my best shot and try to explore what nature's given me and my superpowers and my USP, and that's
lovely. It should be like that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to intend to create more pressure by creating that parallel.
No.
Yeah. But Madhavan sir, I wanted to ask you this, and this just might be my thesis, which might be terribly wrong also. But there's a beautiful line by Sunny Hinduja which sort of commences the series.
हम ना जान लेने वालों को सजा देते और ना जान बचाने वालों को शाबाशी.
Yeah, and so in this, which is essentially the title, The Railwaymen and the Unsung Heroes, is there a theme also of you naturally gravitating towards the story of unsung heroes?
For me, the job is, like KK said very clearly, is to get into the character, do my job as an actor, and make sure that the overall objective of making a film, which is what what we use as a yardstick to judge whether to do it or not, is correct. For example, what you said correctly, when somebody says you're making a film on the Bhopal gas tragedy, every producer that you would go to with a story like this will say, चलो budget में बना दो, इसमें क्या, इसमें कोई heroes तो है नहीं, इसमें कुछ action song, dance तो है नहीं, तो उसको बनाओ 2 करोड़ में 3 करोड़ में. You need people with the vision to see, नहीं यार ये कहानी को कोई भी जो फिल्म बनेगी उससे 10 गुना ज़्यादा बजट में इसको बनाते हैं, अच्छे एक्टर को लेते हैं, इसको like for Yashraj to say we will take people like the 3 of us and Devendu as well, instead of saying they could easily done with superstars and it would have still been Yashraj's first OTT series. So those objectives, when they align so beautifully, then my job is not again to get into a pedestal and say this is the reason why I'm doing it. My job then is to become small, just play my part as an actor and be an integral and a correct fitting part of the jigsaw puzzle, as opposed to having my own light.
No, I agree 100%. Especially, I feel like everybody was such a good team player in the ensemble cast. Devendu, especially with KK sir, was hilarious, I must say.
Yeah, we've been missing him. He's out.
No, that dynamic was great. KK sir, I wanted to ask you, you were in one of the interactions speaking about the core difference between the act of theatre and cinema, and you were talking about how the audience almost gets transported towards the eyes of the individual on camera, and you can't cheat that person. And so, when I was watching the show, so many of the cast members were with masks, so it was just their eyes almost expressing each emotion. Could you, sir, tell me the distinction that you had created of theatre versus cinema?
See, both are wonderful mediums, but they're diametrically opposite as craft. In theatre, when you and me suppose we're doing a theatrical scene, my pitching of my performance is for you to hear. In cinema, because the camera is there, it comes. So in theatre, the actor reaches out to the audience, the last bencher. So as a result, his pitching of that performance is different. In cinema, the audiences reach out to the actor. It's an opposite process through the camera. So if I want to see you, I'll come close to you, and I'll hear you whisper. I'll see your eyes and everything else. The basic tools in cinema is gestural qualities, the quality of your voice, the proper nature of speaking a line, etc., etc. In cinema, you can, at that moment, if there's a moment of truth, slur over a word, fumble, do whatever, because it's there, and the camera is still catching you. So it's an opposite process, and the craft required is completely different. Both are exciting mediums, of course.
Also, someone is deciding what you need to see in cinema and in theatre.
So you have that which is available. So hence the process is difficult. So it's not necessary that a good theatre actor might be a good cinema actor, and vice versa. You need to learn that craft and try and find out. That's what I was explaining there. So hence the eyes. Now there are certain things in cinema that you needn't even speak. In cinema, the lines can be a byproduct of your feeling. In theatre, it's there right out there in the forefront. I can't see your eyes. So I'm hearing the tonation of your voice and the way you speak, and hence it's affecting me as an audience. Here I might not say anything, and the eyes will say everything. So there are such things. So hence to fake on cinema is very difficult. Because in theatre you can still do gestural qualities and think that I'm sad, and that's conveyed as a close-up for the audience. But here it becomes overacting. So you got to understand that it's a very internal process, cinema.
Correct.
So the more and more that you are surrendering yourself to that moment, the better it is. So if you ask me to say how you do it with the eyes, I don't know. It's a feeling that gets manifested in the eyes somehow, and that's what the audiences see.
So with that of you don't know, you know, I'm reminiscing about the second episode. There's this beautiful tracking shot of KK sir just running through the train station.
Yeah.
Okay, and I sometimes wonder, sir, is it Riyaz that makes it a motor nerve to exactly know how the camera is moving and how you interact with those supporting characters and extras around you? Is it Riyaz of constantly doing it, or choreography there which has made you so able on camera?
That's because what happens is that you're seeing that particular space as the entire space, which is why you think that I'm kind of following that track. The moment your shot is designed, that track becomes my field. Rest doesn't exist for me. Understood the difference?
Oh yes.
So yeah, so it's like dribbling. When you see Messi dribbling, and you see the entire field and say, "Itna jagah to hai, isme kar raha hai." No, when you look at it from that little small pathway and consider that only to be the field, you'll automatically follow it.
Wow.
So nothing there to really. But if the actor were to think I have so much of space and the director has told me that this is your space and this is your life here. Lead that life. So I'm leading that life within that space. That becomes my universe for that moment.
It was magical, and I must say that I must commend the integration of real life footage also in the screenplay. Yeah. It really did work wonders in the impact that I had as a viewer. Yeah.
And I would dare say that to make things believable is a far tougher process for a director and the entire team compared to making things non-believable. Mm-hmm. It's really tough because we as actors have the privilege of coming on after they have worked so much. Yeah. So the thought process, the work behind it.
So you remember we did 1 day of rehearsals for that shot, and then 5 hours on the day with the extras, and then like 3 hours of shooting. So it was a big one.
No, that just tells you prep and just the impact it has on the final product.
Yeah. And everyone, I think, like everyone, each
and
one.
And I also differentiate between believable and realism. I don't believe in realism because I believe that in cinema, when you have a department called editing, so realism is a factor of space and time together, right? So the moment you have a department called editing, you are jumping time and space. So there's no realism left. But what you do is you make it believable. Even if I'm going to, kind of have this coffee like this, it has to be made believable. If I'm going to jump from there to there, it has to be made believable. So that's how I look at it, and that's the hardest part. Building a set which is real is fine, but to make it believable on that set is the toughest job for a director and the entire team.
I think it also encapsulates how the entire show came together as well. Yeah. As I said, it was technically very, very engaging, but emotionally riveting as well. Yeah. I couldn't lose out on this opportunity, Madhavan sir, to ask you something that you probably might geek out on, but I just wanted a perspective on this. There's a constant debate about AI and its impact on the film industry, and how the likeness of certain humans can be purchased to become background artists of projects, of how a particular song can be heard multiple times and you can recreate those songs for your current timeline. Do you think humans will just adapt to these technological advancements, or it's slightly concerning of how it's taking over a lot of things?
Let's copyright our faces, yeah.
Sir, but that's a slippery slope, I must say.
Sorry.
No, that's it. I think the bandwidth of emotion that a man is capable of, or a human being is capable of, is very limited. Just because you make an unexpected 1 lakh and I make an unexpected 50 lakhs, my level of happiness cannot be 50 times more than you. I will die of euphoria. Okay. What I'm trying to say is, human beings always find a base to start off from. So if you get, for example, you move from a bullock cart to a motorcycle, right? Now you want to move from a motorcycle to an aeroplane, because it doesn't mean that your life has become that much faster. Your baseline has just been raised up. So with AI, with any other technology that will come, there will come a standardization with which everybody will start from. Okay, so maybe I never had to start from an acting school. I came in and I became an actor on the job. So somebody else will come in, but the level of engagement will start off from the baseline. So tomorrow, if everybody's AI and everybody's got this background, still the people will be saying, okay, now after that, how are you going to stimulate me? So for example, if you have a film with all great looking people with 6 packs and sexy people and great looking sets and everything, then the film should be a blockbuster. But that euphoria of seeing great people and for the first 5 minutes is great, because you've never seen 6 packs and 8 pack 20 years ago, right? It wasn't the criteria for being a superstar. But after that, you're going into the story now. यार तो फिर वो सब तो ठीक है, पहले बता कि कहानी क्या है. So your baselines though are being covered, but you still have to engage the audience. So I think that challenge will always be there, irrespective of whether you move from analog to digital, digital to AI, AI to super AI, all that will happen, but the story has to be weaved in from the baseline.
I agree, and hope that everyone sees the brilliance of The Railwayman. I thoroughly enjoyed it and I would recommend it to everyone. Thank you so much.
18 November on Netflix.
Only on Netflix.
Yeah.
4 parts.
Series. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.